How's it going, YouTube? It's Pilot Flame, and today we're going to be looking at the Hearthstone's next expansion, first release of cards, Saviors of Uldum card reveals. We're going to be jumping straight into it because we have 15 cards to look at today. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's check out the first card here. It's Bees. It's a Druid card, 3 mana, which is a good slot for Druid, considering they don't typically have removal in this slot. Common, so you're going to see it a lot in Arena. Choose a minion, summon 4 1/1 Bees to attack it. So basically, it has a 4 mana removal. It can kill something that has 3 health and has Divine Shield, which is obviously super nice. And it can also synergize with stuff like Raid Leader and the Mass Cultist, which is a 4 mana 4/2. I think it's named Mass Cultist. The one that basically is a 4 mana 4/2 that gains a card. You draw a card every time one of your monsters dies, one of your minions. So that's obviously a super cool combo, but for the most part, we're going to see it probably be using in Arena as it is common. I don't think this card's good enough to be in constructed play, but I could be wrong. It is 4 mana removal effectively, and it is in the 3 mana slot, which is obviously always decent, especially through stuff like Divine Shield. And the bees here are the 1/1 bees that are also beasts as well. Next, we have the Druid Quest, which is Untapped Potential. It is a 1 mana card, like all quests, and it gives you the reward after you end 4 turns with any unspent mana. So you have to end the turn when not using at least 1 mana crystal. So if I use Wild Growth, obviously it gives me an unfilled crystal, an empty crystal, so that wouldn't count. I need to basically, if I have 2 mana, I need to end it with 1 mana, or 2 mana. If I have 3 mana, then I have to end with either 1 or 2. And the reward is Obsidian Tear, which basically makes it so that your choose effects, they have the combined effects all the time, and it's passive. So obviously a super strong card, but you basically have to unintentionally gimp your turns in order to do so. So let's say turn 1 you do nothing, turn 2 you play a 1 mana card, turn 3 you play a 2 mana card, turn 4 you play a 3 mana card. Is that bad? I mean, it depends on if your opponent's playing a more tempo oriented deck, because you can just basically lose the game, especially if those 4 opening turns are very bad. And you can just not get the use of this effect at all. And then you have to draw into your choose 1 effect cards. So obviously the effect is super powerful, but the way to do it just seems a bit awkward, and potentially could just worsen your start to the game, and making no way for a comeback even with the new hero power. Next we have a mage spell here. It is a 10 mana card, Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. Cast 10 random spells, targets chosen randomly. So it's Yogg-Saron for 10 spells. And no Yogg-Saron body. And they obviously always cast. So no Yogg-Saron where it gets polymorphed instantly. Even though before it would just keep going. But now obviously with the current way Yogg-Saron is functioning, it would cancel after the first spell, whereas this one you get the full joy of just 10 random spells doing whatever they feel like. It's obviously a super fun card. I'm glad that they put it as an epic, because obviously that doesn't screw over Arena, because if this card was like a common, it'd be super annoying, especially in the latter half of your Arena runs where you just go up against mages that just use this card and happen to luck their way into winning. Nextly we have the Raid the Sky Temple. Cast 10 spells, and your reward is Ascendant Scroll, which is this here, which is 2 mana. Add a random mage spell to your hand. It costs 2 less. So basically, it's a 0 mana hero power that just adds a random mage spell to your hand. How good is that? It's pretty good, but there are a lot of mage spells that are kind of situational, mainly around freeze effects. So potentially, unless you use the hero power twice and you can double up on that to get the activation of those freeze effects, it would be pretty good. But to cast 10 spells, how reasonable is that? Well, we're looking at potentially around like turn 7, depending on how lucky you get for certain spells. Also, if you can get off like a decent, I believe the card's called Mana Typhoon. It's one of the most recent cards, 2 mana 2/2, that generates a random spell for every spell you cast that turn when it's played. So it's potentially more of a late game oriented card for just added value. I can see this being slapped into like a freeze mage or a control mage type of deck, because why wouldn't you do it? You're going to have spells, you're going to be playing them anyway, so it just makes sense to get the added value. Obviously, and random is always something that can be very, very dangerous, because it's something that can just win you the game outright with the right card in the right scenario. Moving on to the Priest epic, we have its 9 mana, Plague of Death, silence and destroy all minions. So this is a complete board wipe of everything. So it removes all Death Rattle plays, it removes Divine Shields, anything that's on the board is gone basically when this card is played. It's a complete board wipe. And how good is that for Priest? It's pretty good. It is an epic card, so it's not going to be constantly doing a crazy amount in arena, but I can definitely see this in a control priest, obviously, and constructed. The only problem, obviously, it is at 9 mana, so you can't use this and hero power. You can only use a 1 mana or 0 mana card, and there's only a couple 0 mana heals for priest. If this was at 8 mana, I think it would be potentially very strong. So that you can potentially save yourself by wiping the board and then healing yourself back up. And this obviously can be used as a board wipe against smaller minions and bigger minions. It just depends on the deck that you'll be going up against. But obviously a strong card overall. But it's one of those kind of wait and sees, because if the meta's too fast for you to get to turn 9, then you might run into some trouble. But we'll have to see kind of the rest of the cards in the expansion, and then gauge it from there, and then we can give it a rating after that. Nextly, we have the Rogue card, which is a 1 mana spell here, Plague of Madness. Each player equips a 2/2 knife with poisonous. So this card is it's decent in arena. I would like to see this as kind of like a, obviously not used and constructed, because potentially giving this to like a Zoolock or like a hunter would be very dangerous, because any of your minions with 3 or more health are obviously going to die to the poisonous effect. Unless you have some way of weapon removal, obviously then it can be super, super strong, especially at 1 mana. But overall, it's an interesting card. We'll have to see kind of what it can pair with in order for it to be, obviously, negate the effect of giving your opponent a knife by either weapon removal or something else. But has potential, I say. The next card is a Shaman card. 2 mana 0/2 Evil Totem. At the end of your turn, add a lackey to your hand. So obviously, immediate board effect. The second you play it, you gain a lackey right away, and if your opponent doesn't kill it, you get one the following turn. How valuable is it at 2 mana 0/2? Well, it's basically just rolling a totem, but except you get a lackey instead of +1 spell damage or healing or anything like that. So it's arguably better than using your hero power, because you're gaining value from it. And if it's not killed after gaining the first lackey, then it's going to be something to whereas you're just going to keep generating these little minions that are eventually just going to outvalue some of your opponent's bigger minions, in which case you're just going to win the value game overall. So pretty strong card, and you're going to see a lot in arena as well. With arena sometimes being more tempo oriented, this card could potentially sway that back because of the added value and slow your opponent down, because they have to address it. It kind of has taunt in a sense because of the value that it can generate, indefinitely. We got another Shaman card here, Weaponized Wasp. It's a 3 mana 3/3, and if you control a lackey, deal 3 damage. Pretty good card. This can obviously be paired on turn 4 after playing that totem that we just looked at, because you can play the lackey and then you can play this card. How good is 3 damage on a 3-mana 3/3? It's pretty good. I mean, it kills itself effectively, but you know, 3 damage is gonna kill like almost all 2-drops and a good bit of the 3-drops. It is an epic rarity, I think, from what I can tell of the crystal. So not too highly sought after in Arena, obviously, as it has a very specific condition to meet in Arena. But in constructed play, it can obviously be super good. I know that lackeys are very good with rogue, but as you know, maybe they're shifting more towards the shaman class here. It can be a very good card. I'd have to see kind of how the lackey package fits into more of an aggressive or maybe mid-rangey style of shaman deck. Moving on to the next one, we have another shaman card here. This is Earthquake. It's 7 mana, deal 5 damage to all minions, and then deal 2 damage to all minions. So this is obviously much better than the priest card that we saw. It is a rare, so you'll see it a little bit more often than an epic in Arena. But it's better than the priest card because it's 2 mana cheaper and almost always does the same thing. The only thing it can't do is obviously kill super big boards, but it's definitely gonna, you know, most things die to Flame Strike typically, and then this card is just gonna be able to wipe out the little death rattles that your opponent may have. It is a 7 mana card, so it is something that can be, you know, used more in the mid game, just bringing on the late game side of things, and it does have that added text. Then deal 2 damage to all minions, which, like I said, gets rid of the death rattles. It also gets rid of divine shield. So even if you're using the 5 damage to break a divine shield and the thing only has 2 or 1 health, then it's going to kill the divine shield minion too. So obviously super nice. Or if you just want to kill a bunch of minions on the board that have 7 health, or slightly less, maybe 6 health, it's going to kill them too. So it's still going to be used in multiple different ways because the card is super flexible. Moving on to the Shaman quest here. It's a 1 mana. Corrupt the Waters, play 6 Battlecry cards, and your reward is Heart of Vernal, which is a 2 mana hero power, which causes your battle cries to trigger twice this turn. And I'm so glad they put this turn rather than just indefinitely, because that'd be probably super annoying. As we can see in the picture, it looks like it's being paired with Murlocs. And we're also looking at the fact that battle cries are typically quite good in Shaman. Obviously being paired with the Lackey archetype, this is obviously super good for more value. So overall looks pretty good. How reasonable is playing 6 battle cries? Well, technically, if you played 1 minion on turn 1, Lackey plus another 1-drop on turn 2, and then you know, 2 more minions potentially on turn 3, maybe 1 more minion, and so you can look to see maybe turn 4, turn 5. So if you're playing more an aggressive deck, once you get to the lower hand size that you'll probably be used to in the later portions of the game, you'll be using this hero power to basically replenish your hand for the lack thereof after spending the majority of your battle cries. You'll just need to make sure you save some of the vital ones so that you can regen back your you know, the number of cards you can use against your opponent. So basically you can turn 2 into 4 and then 4 into 8, just like that, over 2 turns. So pretty good. Moving on to the next card, it is a Warlock card, Imp Balming. Destroy a minion for 4 mana. Shuffle 3 worthless imps into your deck, which are these 1/1 demons. So how good is 4 mana Destroy a minion? Well, if we remember the Blast Crystal Potion from, what expansion was it? It was the one with Kazakus and all that. It was Mean Streets of Gadgesan, I believe. That's the one where it came out. And that was 4 mana, and you lose a mana crystal. So obviously this card's going to be super good. Zoo decks are definitely going to be able to use the useless or worthless imps, as the card would suggest, as it is still a cheaply statted and costed minion that they can still utilize for sacrifices or adding stats to it in order to make it a little bit more of a threat. In terms of its cost, 4 mana is obviously super strong to destroy any type of minion. Obviously, this goes through Divine Shield. The only thing you have to worry about is Death Rattle, but it is obviously a super strong card, especially in an aggressive zoo type deck. Moving on to the next one, we have what is this? Is this I believe this is a Warlock spell. Yeah, it looks like it. Warlock Quest. Supreme Archaeology. So draw 20 cards and get the Tome of Origination. That would make sense. It would have to be a Warlock card for that. So you got to go through 2/3 of your deck. And then you get Tome of Origination, which is draw a card. It costs 0. That seems pretty good. So yeah. It's basically, it makes it so that Control Warlock is on this ticking time bomb. To whereas basically you want all your beefy minions in the latter third of your deck, so they're all just free when you go to play them. Especially if you have a large hand size, you can basically generate that pretty quickly, obviously by using tap. So it's obviously super strong. Well, whether you're going to be able to get to that late game is another thing. Obviously, lackeys are super strong in the early to mid game. So whether the Warlock player can hold out with this. And get the cards costing 0 a lot faster. We'll have to see. So let's say we get to turn 10. So if we tap every turn from turn 2 onwards, so that's on turns 2 through 10, we tap. So that's 10 draws from the 10 turns, and then an additional 9. So basically, by turn 10, if we tap literally every turn, we still need to do 1 more. So how realistic is that? Not very. So we're going to have to kind of see what type of stall or defensive based cards the Warlock is going to have to use in order to stall out for this to benefit them the most. Moving on to the next card is a warrior card, Relentless Mummy. So it has the new catchphrase or text on it if you must. 4 mana 3/2. It has Rush and it has Reborn. So what Reborn means is that the first time that this minion dies, it spawns back with the same stats, except it has 1 health instead of whatever health it had. So it still maintains if it has Rush or Lifesteal or Death Rattle or anything like that. So Reborn is obviously super good. So this card is basically 4 mana. Kill something with 6 health, basically. It's pretty good in that regard. I can see this obviously being a super flexible card because you can use it against 2 minions rather than 1. It is a common card, so we're going to see it a lot in Arena for Warrior. And it's a pretty good control card in a sense. Rush is typically more of a control-based mechanic. You want to get the board using Rush minions. Whereas Charge was typically more for aggressive style. So I can see this being a pretty decent card for a control style warrior in Constructed, and definitely we'll see a lot of it in Arena fighting for board control. And could also force big tempo swings as well with that. We got a common card here from the normal cards. So we have a 1 mana 1/1 Jar Dealer. Death Rattle, add a random 1 cost minion to your hand. So this is obviously a super strong card. It's obviously a very good card on turn 1. It obviously has a very good Death Rattle. It is a common card, so we're going to see it a lot in Arena. And it's neutral, which means we're going to see it a lot of decks. So this is probably going to be a pretty good zoo card. It's probably going to be a pretty good Arena card. It's probably just going to be a pretty good card. So definitely look out for this card. You're going to see a lot of play of it. And then we have the Questing Adventurer, neutral card, 2 mana 2/3. If you control a quest, draw a card. Sounds good to me. This card is obviously going to be played in any deck that has a quest. Just free draw. It's neutral. And is obviously going to be super good. In Arena, I'm not sure if they're going to remove this card, but a 2 mana 2/3 being a neutral doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, it's a pretty good card. It makes it so that all the quests have their own little form of like kind of draw engine to start off the game. And that's going to do it for all the cards here. So we hope that you enjoyed all of that. I am now back on the screen here. So that's the first 15 cards. When we get the next batch, they usually do like a dump of cards, and then another dump of cards, and then the massive dump of cards. Once we have all the cards, we'll go back through them all again, and we'll kind of look over and give them all ratings and how we can see them playing out in the entire expansion, as we'll be able to see the entire list of cards and say, okay, this card now works with that, or it fits that certain archetype. So until the next one, have a good night and take care.